Hello and welcome to my tutorial video on the sim battles. So, this is going to be going over all three bosses, tactics for using the trial characters that you get for each boss, as well as selections for PAL leadership bonuses that work best for those particular groups. We'll be starting with the oversized puppy. Oh, and something rather important, but kind of irrelevant. You should be aiming to beat these bosses and have a score of at least 13,500 each, or at least that much average. Anyway, let's dive into the first one here. Take on the oversized puppy. Using the trial characters. So, this is your main damage dealer, Herrscher of Reason. Azir is a support that will beef up your damage output. And Cherry, normally they're a damage dealer on their own. Except they're in this team because they're using Blood Dance. It's a weapon that has an ability that, once fired off, will increase the attack speed of the enemy hit, but, and this is the important part for an elemental team, it also gives them a 60% elemental damage debuff. They take 60% more elemental damage. So this sword, on pretty much any claymore wielder, suddenly becomes a really powerful debuff to apply to enemies on an elemental team. Now, it does require SP to fire off, and Cherry does not normally start with SP to begin with. So, an important first choice is to pick a PAL leadership or someone on your friends list that will give you SP to start with, so you can use Cherry right away to fire off the sword as soon as possible. So, I've got a PAL here, there also happen to be my sensei, that they're using the Lightning Empress as their PAL or friendship leadership, which applies every battlesuit, gains 50 bonus SP upon entry. So that is perfect. I just needed 20 to be able to use the sword. 50, more than enough. So that's what we're going to be running with. So, main damage dealer, buffing damage output, debuffing enemies' resistance. So let's start. So the opening move would be to bring in Azir and then build up for combo points. So just use what's normally the special attack, then fire it off on the enemy. Cherry fires off, bring in Herrscher of Reason, pound, 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 fire off the cannon, pound, 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 build up a full charge, back off, charge shot, and pound just a little bit more, enough to get another charge shot, and fire. And you're golden. So, that was not a record-setting time by any stretch of imagination, but that was more than sufficient to give me a very solid score. 14,129. More than what I needed to get the job done. So, that's that boss completed. On to the next. The next boss is the Herrscher of the Void. She's a bit of a pain to fight, because she jumps around a lot and it is somewhat random. So, let's see here. The team is main damage dealer, support to lay down a fire debuff, and elemental support. So this is an elemental team that does not require SP like the last one did. This one, you just want to beef the damage up as much as you can. Now, it is elemental damage, so taking a leadership that says, say, gives critical damage, critical rate, will not help it. You want to focus on total damage or elemental damage. So let's take a look here. Here we go. Someone that's using the Herrscher of Reason as their leadership PAL or friendship bonus. So this gives the team 24% to all elemental damage. This part doesn't matter, Bronya, Sealy, or Olivia's, that's Blueberry and Cherry, would also gain 21% total damage. It would be nice if I had one of them on the team, but I don't. But, there's something I could do. I could switch. Now I do. I now have an Olivia to apply a debuff. I now have someone to apply a buff. The only thing I'm missing, though, is I'm just getting this 21% damage. I won't be able to use Cherry's sword. I won't be able to fire it off. She won't have enough power, and it'll take too long to build up enough power to fire it. So I could go for this damage, or I could switch over to this, Sorry. Switch over to this character. I don't know why they do that. I was clicking here, but apparently it's close enough to the picture. Anyway, so that would give 50 SP to everyone on the team. That's great. But, you know what? I'm still going to stick with the damage, because this is essentially, altogether, 45% damage bonus. It's 24% specifically to elemental, and then 21% more total. Now, the thing is, though, that sounds good, doesn't it? But when you read it, any Bronya, Seelie, or the Olivias in your team gets the bonus, not the whole team. So it won't work that way. So I really do want to go for another character that's either the Herrscher of Lightning or the Lightning Empress. Those two feed you SP right off the bat. Now there is a new Herrscher added in, the Herrscher of Flame Scion. Let me see, I don't think I have anyone on my list. Oh, here we go. Every non-Kiana battlesuit gains 25 bonus initial SP. So here's another really, really good option. That sword only needs 20 SP to fire off. You're lucky enough to have someone on your friends list as this character, as their leadership helper. By all means, for an elemental team like this, that's possibly your best choice. And that's the choice I'm going to go with. So, here we go. Damage dealer, debuff, buff. Now you can combine some buffs together, but most buff characters don't stack with other buff characters. See, this is the problem. This is what makes this character a bit of a pain to take on, because they're extremely evasive. It's sometimes hard to land attacks the way you need to. They are amongst the most annoying enemy to fight, honestly. The only one slightly worse is her Divine Prayer version. Now, I should still have done a decent score. So, if you were following, I started off using the Phoenix to build up her charge. The way she gives a buff to the team is that little pink bar that's above the health bar. As that charges up, the more charge it has, the more of a buff it gives to the rest of the team. And then, of course, I've already explained with the last encounter what Sherry was there for, that the Blood Dance Sword, firing that off, applies a massive elemental debuff. Anyway, I did score 13,775, more than 13,500. I even had over 500 points extra on my previous fight, so I'm golden once again. Alright, now for the final encounter. This robot is a bit of a jerk. Let's take a look here. So this time around, it is a lightning elemental team. Main damage dealer, buff, ground debuff. Rosemary actually has the ability to apply a debuff on the field that will debuff all enemies' resistance to lightning damage. It's very, very useful. And of course, Adzir will buff up elemental damage. And of course, Herrscher of Thunder doesn't need too much introduction if you've been playing the game at all. She is an amazing damage dealer. Now, we've got a few options to pick from here. I am going to try and find someone that's also got the same Herrscher of Flame Scion for their leadership bonus, if possible. Not likely, but possible. I'll take a look through here. If not, the Herrscher of Reason is a good choice. Or if you're able to find someone who's got the Herrscher of Thunder, that's also actually another good choice. It's right here, Herrscher of Thunder, 20% bonus damage. Psi-type characters get 60 bonus SP. That bonus SP will help for firing off the Herrscher of Thunder's Dragon mode a little bit faster. which will speed up the damage output. However, you do want to try and defeat the boss before you actually build up enough power to use the Herrscher form, because the Herrscher form eats up time, and the longer it takes to beat a boss, the fewer points you get. Well, I am not seeing anyone else on my list with the... Oh, yeah, hang on. Here we go. Someone else with the Herrscher of Flame Scion. 34% elemental damage bonus, 25 SP to begin with. That should work. So, here we go. You're going to build up your friends list in this game. If you're new, you're going to build it up very, very quickly. I actually have had to start paring back some of my friends list because it's gotten too big. There we go, charged up. And there's debuff on the ground. Oh dear, I stayed too close to it too long, and I got stunned. Still managed to defeat it in 19 seconds. Not a great time, still more than good enough. You have no reason to be afraid of taking on these bosses. The trial characters will get the job done. And if you don't have a big friends list or people in your friends list that have the kind of leadership bonuses you need, you can still easily get it done. Prove that, we're going to go back to the first boss encounter. I will not choose a pal or friends list leadership bonus. So here we go. 14,129. That was my previous score. I'm probably not going to be able to score quite as high, but I should still be able to easily get over 13,500. So, same team layout, not taking any PAL leadership bonus. That will mean that I'm not going to be switching on to Cherry, as she will not be able to fire the sword off and apply that debuff. That'll slow things down a little bit, but not enough to be a major concern. So here we go. So, Azir again. And this time switching right over to Bronya. No debuff applied because I don't have the power to do it, and it takes too long to build up Cherry's debuff, or her power, to be able to fire that debuff off. This time around, I do need to be a little more aggressive on my basic attacks. Build them up some more. Another full charge. And away we go. And that will be the end of the boss. Did take me, what, 10 seconds longer? That 60% debuff is pretty huge, but it's still... My score hasn't changed. I don't believe I scored anywhere near that score. That was my previous score. Well, I suppose that kind of kills this idea of demonstrating you can still score just as well. I think that might be new. Before, when I've done this, I would get the... I wouldn't change my total score, but it would show me what I actually scored for that encounter. You know what? Let's test it out. Let's... You know what? Same encounter. Exact same encounter. This time, I'm going to stick strictly to the Herrscher of Reason. I'm not going to switch. My time will probably be another 5 to 10 seconds longer. So, cannon, gauge, fully charged, charge shots, gauge yet again, dodge, dodge, dodge again, full charged. There we go. Yeah. Actually about the same time. Oh, here we go. So, I still got over 1,400. So I just managed to somehow match my previous score. So it wasn't that it didn't change my score, It's just I matched it. Well then, so there you go. Trial characters, no pals, easily got over the 13,500. That was actually a bit of a shocker that I managed to make the exact same score twice without doing the stuff that helps speed things up. Alright then. Good to know. So, that is the current Sim Battle bosses. Tactics involved, leadership choices, why certain choices work and why certain choices don't. The rotation on these encounters for the characters that you're given. Now, I did not go with these set choices for this encounter. I changed out this character for Cherry because I was going to use Blood Dance to apply a debuff. Normally you'd use this character, and unfortunately for me, I'm not very good with her, to apply a flame debuff on the enemy. And the Herrscher of the Void, the boss version of her, is susceptible to fire damage. So, you pull in Phoenix, then you'd switch into this version of Mia, or Sakura, take your pick, they're supposed to be the incarnation of the other, and apply a fire debuff on the enemy, then switch on to your main fire damage dealer, and go to town. Basically, it's a massive debuff, while you get a nice big buff, and then a whole lot of damage raining down on the boss. Like I said, I'm not very good with single sword wielders, so that's why I switched out for the Claymore wielder. Applies a debuff with a similar effect. Alright, well, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you maybe learned a thing or two. And I definitely hope we'll see you again soon. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll catch you next time.